What's up, guys? In this video I'm going to get nice and greasy and pull back some boots on a couple of the popular CV axles that are out right now, and I'm going to try to show you the difference between a double plunging axle and a more standard OEM automotive style axle like what comes in the Hondas from the factory. So double plunging versus double offset joint, and try to show you the differences between the two and talk about some trade-offs between the two designs, and when you need them, when you don't, and why there's some problems if you use them in the wrong application. So us Honda guys don't get a lot of love from the aftermarket community, and we've had a lot of issues getting quality HD axles for the ATVs, to say the least. I get a lot of complaints from you guys. So hopefully this video will clear that up. The second half of the video is me just promoting my new axle that is available on the Tarachi.com website. I'm making axles for the front of the Foreman, Rancher, and Rubicon. I'm also making rear axles for the Rubicon and P5 axles, and then from there on I'm going to make a full line of axles because we just need better axles. Show you before we start taking the boots off and we ruin all these axles. Let's take a few measurements. 65 millimeters roughly. This one right here is 73 millimeters roughly, and the Terache axle is 76 millimeters. So this is the biggest axle I've ever seen in the front of the Honda ATVs. We made it as big as we could get, clearing the ball joints and everything, obviously. And the reason I made the outer cup so big is because that's what always fails for me, is the inner cage breaks. If the axle doesn't pop out, I usually break the inner cage and then the balls fly out and you're stranded. So I used a 1000cc class outer cup internals, and we got this as beefy as we could get it. So working on axles is obviously a very messy job. I already got grease all over my hands and my phone case and stuff. But anyway, here's how a Honda OEM style axle gets its travel, right? So it has to be able to extend and compress a little bit when you steer and flex the suspension. And here's how an OEM axle does it. You have ball bearings that ride in these grooves, so they can transfer torque and they can also slide. That's OEM. That's how this smaller axle right here is going to work as well. It's pretty simple. You have ball bearings rolling in grooves, nice and greasy, and it's very easy to slide because there's a lot of diameter transferring that torque. You don't have a lot of binding. This is how Honda designed the front differential snap ring to retain the axle. They did not design it for a double plunging axle. Okay, so here's the double plunging axle, and you see those long splines there? You actually get your travel from the inner side of the axle sliding on those splines. So instead of having this big bearing sliding in a groove, you have the inner star of the CV joint sliding on splines. Totally different mechanism. This one's already got a good amount of slop in it, and I did not have it that long. So the problem with this is, well, first of all, this works great in some applications. If the differential is beefy enough to handle it, and it has a bigger shaft, it works fine. Or if it's a spool, like in the rear, it works good. But you can see that the balls are all the way in the outside of the cup, which means you have all of this distance from the differential to twist the axle side to side, and it's just not great for these small Honda differentials. So double plunging, people start to say it's a universally good thing, and it does have benefits in some applications, but we have not found it to be very successful for the Hondas, because the differentials are kind of small, to be honest, in the front. But yeah, so once that spline right there gets some wear in it and starts to get rough, when there's torque being applied to it, it doesn't want to slip, and then when you hit a bump, it pops the axle out of the diff. So that's the difference in the mechanism. I don't know how else to explain it. Hopefully that makes sense, how you're getting your travel here. Now, this side of the axle works the exact same way as this one. It doesn't have quite as much plunge. It's only like maybe ½ an inch, but it's the same concept, so I'm not going to take it apart. It's just that star piece sliding on the splines. What's up, guys? There she is. This is my new Tarachi front CV axle for all the Honda platforms, the Rancher, the Foreman, the Rubicon. Super excited about this because the most common question I get is, what axles do you recommend? I've never had a great answer. I used to recommend another axle about a year ago. I was sponsored by this other company. You guys had so many complaints, I stopped working with them because the customer service was terrible. The axles kept popping out of diffs. They kept shearing off in diffs, and they kept breaking diffs. They kept breaking the side gears. So the Honda front differential is fairly delicate, and if you don't have the right style axle in it, it's a nightmare. I had the same problems with my turners on my 5-inch Catvos. If you guys have ever had that lift kit, you know what I'm talking about. Nothing but axle overheating issues. So what did I do here to make this axle so bulletproof? Well, first of all, it is bulletproof. I've been running dualies on it on and off for about 6 months. You guys have seen tons of videos of me testing these Tarachi axles. And these are the very first pair I got, and I haven't had to replace a single one. They've been absolutely bulletproof, and I can show you what I did to accomplish that. So number one, it's not double plunging. These Honda front diffs do not like double plunging axles. It uses an OEM style inner axle. It's just beefed up, bigger internals. Okay, simple. The outer axle cup is also OEM style. It's got 6 balls in it, but it's got a really, really big cage, really big balls, really big internals. And I didn't make the shaft very much bigger. So you see the shaft looks kind of small, and that's because the shaft is kind of small. We never break the shafts on the Hondas. We break the outer cups. So if you make the shaft small and the cup big, you can get awesome angle with an OEM style joint. This axle was designed and the lengths were specified by me to be able to run a 2-inch lift kit and not have the shaft contact the inside of the cup. If that happens, you get metal in there, it gets hot, you overheat your boots split. So this is a pretty simple thing. Basically, I took an OEM axle and I made it bigger. The things I focused on was keeping the pivot point as close to the wheel as I could and keeping the pivot point as close to the diff as I could. That minimizes the angle, which minimizes wear, vibration, everything's better with less angle. So these axles are set up to run a 2-inch lift, and they're great. Now, I'm not saying double plunging axles are bad in all applications. I like them in the rear of most machines. I like them on Can-Ams. If I make some Can-Am axles, I'll probably make them double plunging because that differential was designed to work with a double plunging axle. The Honda front diff is very fragile and not designed for double plunging axles, I say again. Also, the nuts fit properly. So if you ever installed HD axles on a Honda, you probably know you can't use the washer or the cotter pin won't go through the hole. And the nuts look really cheesy. Let me find one for you. Yeah, this is what the nuts you get on other axles are. So there's no flange on the nut. You can't run the washer, so the nut ends up sinking into your hub, wearing out, getting loose, and then your wheel bearing fails because it's not properly loaded. This does not have that issue. Corrected that. Boots are very high quality, very stout boots, so they won't get ripped by sticks and stuff, and good boot bands that don't get caught on things. So yeah, 1-year warranty. I'll handle the warranties. If you message us on the Tarachi page, it goes right to me. And they're about $200. There are some 5% promo codes. They're up on the website right now. Another sneak peek for you guys. So excuse the mess. I just had a bunch of packages come in. These are the P500 axles, and I'm really excited about them. So if you know anything about P500 axles, they're kind of weird. Your front left axle's really long, your front right axle's really short, and it makes it hard to have good angles with an axle this short. There's the rear axle, extremely beefy. I'll tell you more about it once I start testing it. These will be on sale in a couple months. I still have to test fit them and then put a bunch of miles on them, and then I'll get them on sale for you guys. But they're really, really pretty. So the same axle fits the left and the right and the rear. So the part number says LR. Here is your front right axle. So the part number ends with an R. Now, most companies don't do this. This is something I just came up with. So because this axle is shorter, you can see I used a different style cup. This cup puts the balls closer to the diff, and it gets you a longer shaft on the right side. Can't do it on the left side. You need the extra clearance for the pinion, but on the right side, I used a different series cup in order to minimize the angle. What that means is that this axle will give you more lift on the front of a P5 and less binding. I did use double plunging axles on the P5. In the front, it has a very beefy diff with very big splines. It can handle it. And if you want raked arms or custom suspension, double plunging axle gives you more options as far as moving your arm forward, moving it down. But yeah, P5 axles coming soon. Give you guys a little tease. Those are our Rubicon rear axles, way beefier than the Honda. They are single plunging on this end, but they do use a slip spline, so you can get some crazy angles with these things. They came out super pretty and beefy. No one else has anything like it. I think these are gonna kick ass. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll make another video installing these axles just with some tips and tricks for how to install Honda front axles. It's really not a bad job. If you know what you're doing and you don't mess with the ball joints, it's a lot easier. Basically just pull the lower control arm bolts and snatch your old axle out, slam your new one in. Helps to put some grease on the snap ring to hold it centered. But I'll make a video showing you how to do it. It's pretty quick and simple. Thanks for watching.